What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we're going over Solana as we could be approaching an extreme move that could affect not just Solana, but all markets in general. So let's not waste any more time at all, and let's get straight into today's video, starting off here on the Solana chart. Now, what we've been paying attention to over the last couple months has been this macro ascending wedge. Now, you all know I've been an advocate in saying that although this looks good and we've been seeing good progress, more often than not, we will see in a macro downtrend that has an ascending wedge here, we will more often than not break to the downside. It happens more than 80% of the time, okay? And so for that reason, we have been anticipating that at some given point, we very possibly could come down, break through the bottom, establish support, and then continue, or just simply continue into this macro downtrend. But both scenarios usually will involve, of course, the breaking of this support here. So now that we are approaching this bottom side support, it becomes to beg the question, is this the time in which we are going to get a breakout to the downside, which could be something that is due to the rest of the market? Now, the reason I say this could affect the rest of the market is because Bitcoin is in a very, very similar position. Ever since July of, very early July, nearly about 6 weeks ago, we've been following this yellow trend line here. And just yesterday, we crashed straight down through it and seem to be back testing it right now with no success. And so what that means is it seems like Bitcoin is also getting ready to come visit its bottom side here. And since we lost this key level of support, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to actually start seeing us falling below this key level of support, which would again coincide with Solana also breaking its support. So it seems as if the entire market is making a decision right now of, are we about to start losing support levels and start really crashing? Or are we going to see another bounce here and then a continuation to the upside? Personally, I have no way of knowing if this is the moment or not that we are going to break to the downside. Of course, there's no way for me to predict the future, but what I can say is that I am still confident it will happen at some point. Pay attention to the fact that momentum has been dying on Solana. We were unable to reach the top side of this wedge here. You look at the RSI, we're getting the bearish divergence that none of us like, right? In which we're here, boom, we put in a high, right here, there we go. Then we came down to put in the lower high. But on the price here, we actually went up, and if we zoom in close enough, you can see in that same time frame, we went in and put a high and a higher high. So whenever you have a higher high on the price and lower highs on the RSI, that is considered bearish divergence. That goes to show that momentum is dying and that we will very likely start to see some type of capitulation or just correction, at least, towards the downside. And so for that reason, since momentum is changing, since more often than not, we will start to see the price of, any crypto in an ascending wedge usually break to the downside, what that usually says is that this very possibly is either the time we're about to break to the downside or it's coming soon. Okay. So what I'm on the lookout for at this point is, do we break below $40 and get the daily close there? We are trying right now to establish some support, and we are actually doing a decent job at holding support on this current level. If you look at the 4-hour RSI, actually, we can actually see that there is a bit of bullish divergence on this level, in which we put in a low and a higher low up here, of course, but we put in a low in the macro lower low. And so there is the potential for us to get at least one more short-term bounce to the upside here. But even if we do get that bounce, if at any given point we start to get daily closes below $40, that is the key identifier that we are going into some type of correction to the downside. And I think opening up some short trades wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Remember, although we are establishing some support here, understand that Bitcoin is simply only retesting right now. It's just trying to come back up and retest this trend line. It is very likely at this point for Bitcoin to continue at least back towards $23,000, which I do believe would pull Solana down out from below this ascending wedge. Okay. Now, what would I be doing the moment we did break this thing? Well, if we start getting daily closes below $40 or just simply below this trend line here, what I'm going to do is start looking to open up some short positions down to key support levels, as we've done many times on the channel. You guys know I have a trading strategy, or at least a shorting strategy, that I have been extremely effective with over the last 4 months. I'm actually 8 for 8 on it over the last 4 months because it's not something that happens super often, but this is what could be happening extremely soon. Now, what this strategy involves is once we get a break of support from a key structure such as this one, I will short the price on the daily close down to the first level of support, or the most recent level of support on that trend line, which is is roughly right here, and then the next one, and then the next one. These times that we've established these points of support will almost always act as the breakdown targets of where the price will go once we lose this structural support. So generally speaking, we'll do this, we'll retest, and we'll break. If we lose this one, we'll retest and we'll break. We'll retest and we'll break. And these are the levels where you take profits off of short trades. So what I'm going to do is that if we start getting daily closes below $40, I'm going to short down to $37.45, which from that point would look like a gain of roughly 6%. I usually do 2 to 2.5x leverage, so that could be anywhere from, roughly 12 to 15 to 20% roughly in gains, of course, on that short trade. I actually took this short trade on Matic just yesterday. As I told you all, I said, look at this structure. We got the rising triangle. If we break here, we're very likely going to come back down to the last previous point of support, which is right here. And look what happened. We broke support. We came straight down to that level. It was a very, very easy short trade that we picked up about 8% in gains on. And so for Solana, I'm looking for something similar. If we break here, I am expecting this push towards a roughly $37.45. And that's the short trade that I'm taking on. Okay, so pay very close attention to if this happens. Of course, if we do get a bounce, it's going to take something substantial, right? I mean, if we get a bounce, we're going to need to at least get back above this key point at $46 before I get too excited, because realistically, with the amount of rejection we've seen around this $46 level, it wouldn't, it would take a lot. It would honestly take a lot for us to make this push out of here, especially after we got some good, decent inflation news and all that stuff. If that wasn't good enough to get us past this point, I'm not going to be convinced with a little bounce of this nature or even of this nature. I would need to see us break $46 and backtest and hold it before I get bullish in the short term. So for that reason, do stay tuned for a video and an update if we do get a good bounce. But again, I'm not going to be convinced if Solana bounces until we break $46, because I still do believe we will correct out of this wedge at some given point, back down, and a short trade will be available. So do stay tuned for that. I do all of these trades out in my Patreon, so if that is something you'd be interested in, of seeing my real life updates and or like my real-time updates of when I'm doing these trades, when I'm exiting them, do join the Patreon. But if not, I will of course update you guys here. Just make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss that video. But with that said, that's about it for today's quick and easy update. And of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you can always let me know easily and simply by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I will see you all next time. Peace.